Hello, I'm Chris Casey.
And I'm Kristen Lagata. Welcome to Arundel County Week in Review. In this week's episode, we'll sit down with Wes Adams to talk about his first month as state's attorney, and we'll get a preview of changes coming to county government. But first, making headlines this week. Now, warning, this first story starts with a photo that will simply melt your heart. These 4 pooches were found by animal control in the Revel Downs community of Broadneck in a cage by the side of the road. Awful, Chris.
Yeah.
Actually, the story was a little more complicated than that, and as usual, has a social media connection. Someone reported the location of the 4 dogs, but when officers responded, the cage was gone. They later learned from a post on Facebook that a neighbor had taken the dogs in from the cold. The 2 adult dogs and 2 puppies have been given names by animal control. Morrigan, Cassandra, Lil Steve, and Lil Nate. Kind of sounds like an R&B group there, Chris. Animal control is taking names of potential adopters while an investigation is pending. If you are interested, please call 410-222-8900. Of course, you can also find out more by visiting Animal Control on Facebook or their volunteer page, Friends of Anne Arundel County Animal Control. What the heck is wrong with people, Chris?
I don't know, they're so cute.
I know. Who would put them on the side of the road? That's awful, and I'm really glad that that kind person took them in so they could stay warm. It's just... I mean, it's never a good time to leave animals on the side of the road, but right now, especially when it's freezing out. And
there's so many resources available for people who have pets and can't take care of them. They can turn them over to animal control. There's ASPCA shelters. Leave them on the side of the road, that's never an option.
It's horrible.
It is.
And someone should adopt them soon.
Yeah. Well, we have some news for you about efforts to improve county government. This week, County Executive Steve Schuh released his findings of his transition teams, who have conducted a top-to-bottom review of county government. Here are a few of the recommendations. Number 1, upgrade information technology. The committee's recommended improvements to internal and external computerized tools such as automated permitting and much more use of social media. Improving customer service. The committee's identified opportunities for departments to work together better and also improve morale by improving communications between employees, department heads, and the unions. And also to increase private contributions. The transition team members called for the establishment of foundations allowing citizens to make legacy contributions that improve county services, such as parks and sports fields. And finally, to streamline the procurement process. Citizens on the transition team recommended cutting red tape and increasing opportunities for private sector companies to do business with the county. County Executive Schuh promised that these recommendations will not sit on the shelf. We'll be sure to keep you updated on the progress of that transition. Kristen, what is your contribution to the transition team? More recycling? Or?
Well, absolutely, Chris. That would be my vote. Do you recycle?
I do. See, my area is North County, and as you were very well aware, North County is kind of lacking when it comes to the rest of the county with recycling. So we're working on efforts to really get that number up and, you know.
I'm hoping that you'll lead the charge.
I'm leading the charge. You're helping me, but we're leading it together.
Well, it's a great way to preserve natural resources and especially our county landfill space.
Of course. It's limited. We've got, what, like 40 years left with our current landfill capacity?
Right now we're at 86% full, and we are really struggling to try and make sure that we have enough ample space left over that it can last as long as it can. So the best way we can get folks to help out with that is by recycling more often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Chris, we had another tragic fire in the county this week, just a couple of weeks after the devastating loss of 6 people in an Annapolis home after the family's dried-out Christmas tree caught fire. A Brooklyn Park fire has claimed another 3 lives. This time, the situation was different, but no less terrible. 17-year-old Sundama Sinha, who went by Sonny, his mother Letitia, and their neighbor Chris Rickman all died in the fire after an explosion. Rickman ran in with Letitia to save her son, and all 3 perished in the fire at the parsonage of United Brethren Church, where Samuel Sinha is the pastor. The fire is under investigation. The Anne Arundel County Fire Department offers the following safety tips to avoid these tragedies. The biggest thing you can do is to make sure your smoke detectors are working and have fresh batteries. We just did this the other day in my own home. Both the Brooklyn Park fire and the Annapolis fire happened when people were asleep inside the building. Make sure working smoke detectors are located in every room of a building, including the upper floors and sleeping areas. Never leave a stovetop or open flame unattended. Keep candles at least a foot away from anything that can burn. Keep flammable items at least 3 feet away from a space heater. For a comprehensive list of fire safety tips, go to www.nfpa.org.
Absolutely terrible tragedy that happened there, and I think that this brings to light the fact of fire safety when it comes to the smoke detectors. Like you said, you just changed yours. A big thing is change the smoke detector batteries with the clocks, so that way you never forget. And also, I cannot stress the importance enough of staying outside of a structure if there is a fire. If you get out of the building, don't run back inside. These actions were definitely heroic, but what would have been the tragic loss of one life is now the tragic loss of 3. So I just want to, really drive that point home. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to new State's Attorney Wes Adams, take a look at our community calendar for events around town. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers to help us better care for ourselves and the ones we love.
Welcome back. Joining us on the show this week, we have Wes Adams, State's Attorney for Anne Arundel County. Mr. Adams, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, Kristen. It's a pleasure to be here. Chris, welcome. How are you?
Good.
And can you go over a bit about how your first month in office has been so far?
First month has been great, Kristen. We've made some good changes. I was fortunate enough to bring in a couple of great assistant state's attorneys, including my deputy, John Church. He's a 20-year veteran of the county police force and been a homicide prosecutor with me, and also Jason Knight, another great homicide prosecutor. Between the two of them, I think they've tried about 20 homicide cases in the last 2 years.
Wow. And can you tell us a bit about your experience as well?
Sure. I'm a career prosecutor. I spent 7 years in Baltimore City prosecuting murders. Did about 75, almost 80 murder prosecutions up there. Went back to Prince George's County in 2008 where I was the chief of homicide. We prosecuted another 50 homicides back there by myself. We did some great things there, helped reduce the homicide rate from about 135 murders a year to 56.
Wow.
Last year, in 2014, we actually dropped it all the way down to 54.
Wow.
It's the lowest it's been in Prince George's County history in a long time.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And that just speaks to your record as a prosecutor. So recently, a guilty verdict was handed down in the so-called Craigslist murder case. Could you tell the viewers at home a little bit more about that case and what your thoughts are on it?
Sure. This was a really difficult prosecution because the defendant was using Craigslist to lure victims out under the guise of selling a car. And in October of 2013, he lured a couple of victims out, a father and son, ended up shooting the father. Didn't have a car, had a gun, announced a robbery, ended up shooting the father. We were left with just the son as a witness to his dad's murder. And we were able to, actually Deputy Church and Assistant State's Attorney Knight took over this case on their first day in office, had to review the case, actually rebuilt it from the ground up, discovered a new witness. That new witness helped us really put all the pieces in place and convince the defendant to accept guilt. He accepted his guilt and is now sentenced to 60 years in jail. He was a 35-year-old man, so he will be off the street for the rest of his life. And it's just a great effort by some of the new prosecutors here and just hopefully signaling a new way that we're going to do business.
Outstanding
Wow,
work from you and your colleagues, absolutely. Now, how is your office planning on getting involved in the fight against heroin?
Well, we have a multifaceted approach to the heroin epidemic. As I announced when the county executive had the big heroin task force press conference, we have dedicated a prosecutor, and in the process of dedicating a prosecutor to work with the heroin task force. They'll be working what we call vertical prosecution, so starting with the crime as it occurs and making sure that it's well put together for presentation to the court. We also have a tremendous drug court program. It's run by one of my assistants. She concentrates on helping addicts and users recover. And then the last piece is education. So we're going to be working all three roles. We want our young kids to be educated. We want our addicts to be rehabilitated. We don't want them going out and using again. We want them back working. And then, of course, our main focus from the prosecution side is going to be the dealers.
Wow, so it sounds like a very multifaceted approach.
Well, looking at the heroin epidemic, it has to be a multidisciplinary approach, both with the prosecution. The county executive has devoted a ton of resources. Obviously, the police officers, the sheriffs, Chief Altamari and Sheriff Bateman have done a super job in just lending their men and their detectives towards ferreting out the people who are dealing this to our citizens. The health department, everybody's on board, and that's the kind of approach that we need to tackle this epidemic.
Absolutely.
So I know state's attorney is a 24-hour, 7 days a week kind of job, but when you're not in work mode, what else do you like to do?
Well, I'm a baseball and football coach with my boys. We're out most nights during the week since they're different ages. I'm usually with two different teams. Typical week in the household is, basketball on Saturday, baseball on Sunday, baseball on Monday, baseball on Tuesday.
Wow.
Baseball on Wednesday.
A little busy.
We go full speed. It's good to be involved with my kids and the other young men and women around in the community. It just keeps me in touch with where the kids are, sort of what they're seeing. I get a different look on Instagram and social media than we as adults have just watching my kids. So it really helps me stay in touch with them, and I appreciate it.
Well, hi to your lovely family out there who's watching, and we want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. We hope you'll join us again. Again, Wes Adams, State's Attorney for Anne Arundel County. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Week in Review.
Pretty much a good day for me would be people leaving their hands off of me. I'm always called names. Everywhere that I go, there's always someone calling me names, calling me gay. I've been choked, thrown up against a wall, punched. Nobody's ever tried to help me.
Welcome back. If you've been to the Severna Park Library recently, you may have noticed quite a few changes and upgrades that have been made since January. Michelle Corkadell joins us from the library with Skip Auld, CEO of the County Library System, to talk about renovations.
Thank you for joining us today at the Severna Park Library, where recent renovations has the community talking with excitement. I'm here today with the CEO of the Anne Arundel County Public Libraries, Skip Auld. Skip, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Michelle. It's great to have you here and to talk about all these new features at this new library.
So, what can our community members expect to see when they come into the doors of the newly renovated Severna Park Library?
Well, the first thing is just a completely new look. It's the same library, but it's been completely renovated. We have new carpeting. We have quiet areas in the back of the libraries. That's something we didn't have before, so a lot of the noise that people might have had in trying to do tutoring with people and that, or any kind of study or that kind of thing, that now can happen in quiet areas. We have a reading section, a quiet reading section where the newspapers are, so there's that kind of thing. Probably the most important thing we've done is the Smart Pay system, where you can do scanning, faxing, printing. You can put money on an account and then be able to do all of that type of thing. You can even pay fines that way, but that all is happening at a station right near the front where 2 of the 4 self-check stations are. We have self-check stations that are great. This is a whole new technology that replaces the old self-check machines, and this allows our staff to get out from behind the desk and really work with people, rove through the buildings, help people out and finding things. So it's really working great.
Well, improving customer service is very important.
Yes.
And speaking of our customer, we are in a new era of the type of customer. And we're actually seated here at the Wi-Fi bar.
That's exactly right.
Which is a new feature to our public libraries. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that.
Well, this is kind of a precursor to what will happen in the Annapolis Library. Some of the design features here will carry over, but we'll have a lot of other new things for that new library that will get started soon. The Wi-Fi bar, right back over this way, we've got about 6 actually it's room for a lot of people, but I see 6 chairs here. People can come in, plug in, and get access to Wi-Fi in the library. Of course, you can get Wi-Fi anywhere else in the library as well. We have about a dozen new, really comfortable reader seats that allow people to use Wi-Fi in those areas too. So, yeah, it's a great new era of public libraries.
Well, I saw the kids lining up when the library was just opening up at 9 a.m., which you are open on just about every day starting at 9 a.m., with Sundays being from 1 to 5. It seems like the library has proven itself once again to be the anchor of this community.
Yeah, we're definitely the place for kids, teens, adults, everyone, seniors, everyone. The kids, by the way, love the self-checks because they can drag their parents over. They can check out their books themselves too, because there's one of the self-check stations over in their area. So it's great. It's a great new time.
And as you mentioned, Annapolis Library is something that we'll be looking forward to as you continue to renovate our libraries.
That's right.
To improve our services.
That's right. That'll be at 1410 West Street. It's going to be built on that site. So in a couple of years, we'll have that new Annapolis Library in place. So looking forward to that.
Exciting for everybody in the county. Thank you so much for joining us
Thanks
today,
a lot, Michelle.
Skip.
Yeah, thanks.
Back to you.
Thanks, Michelle. So, Chris, it's been a hot week in music.
So, Kristen, it has.
Yes, we had the Grammys this past Sunday, and quite a bit of juicy gossip running, of course, after an event like this. Well, of course, we had the big Kanye fiasco, where Kanye point blank told Beck that he should give up his award for Best Album and turn it over to Beyonce.
See, here's what I find funny about that whole situation. You have Beck, who wrote an album by himself.
Absolutely.
And you have Kanye, who, he's a great performer, he's got a great following, but he had like 150, 120 people help him with his album. You know, it just...
And I'm glad that you focus on what Kanye's music is like, because a lot of people have been saying as a response to that, Beyonce gets so much assistance from her executive producers on her album. Let's not attack the lady that's been dragged into this. Let's attack the person that made the comment. Of course, now we're noticing that he's backtracking a bit and saying what a big Beck fan he is. But this classic Kanye, the Tay Swift case of 2012, 2013, my memory fails me.
That's why I just don't watch the Grammys anymore. I like the iHeartRadio Music Awards. People actually vote on them.
I haven't watched that before.
How are the Grammys decided? Do you know?
Well, the Grammys decided by the Recording Academy.
And who are they? Do you know?
That's a couple of big wigs that are high up than I'm ever going to be. So.
And I don't think they listen to the same music that we listen to.
No, probably don't. But I think that it spoke highly that they gave Beck the award.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you'd think it would have gone to someone that I thought Taylor Swift had it in the bag. She had the highest selling record of the year. But Beyonce could have won too, but they gave it to Beck, who is an extremely versatile, very talented musician. He played all the instruments on his album too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that happened. Other than that, I don't blame you for not watching the Grammys. I personally felt a little bored with this year's Grammys and actually put myself to bed about midway through. I don't think I really missed anything. The Ed Sheeran number was excellent. Played with John Mayer and Questlove and Herbie Hancock on keys. It sounds like a dream jam band for me. But that was fantastic. And the other one would be the Hozier and Annie Lennox performance.
He's blowing up big.
He's great, and she's coming out with a new album that covers old classics, according to our producer Chuck. So that sounds fantastic as well, and that's why she did the CCR cover. But I felt like it was forced for the rest of the show. There was a lot of acts in there. How many more times are we going to see Pharrell do Happy? Love the song.
Right.
Great jam. Could wake up to that every day. But how many more times are we going to watch him do Happy?
I think Kristen Lagana is trying to segue for performance at next year's Grammys.
We go.
So
You're picking up what I'm putting down.
you can send us an email and we'll get you your information.
That also, I hear there's a couple of openings in our line of work, Chris.
TV?
In anchoring the news.
Oh, well, okay.
Of course, Brian Williams.
We all know about that story.
Yep.
You know, basically, he said he was in a helicopter that got hit by an RPG. Well, the story has devolved, and evidently that's not what has happened. So he's been suspended indefinitely. What else do we have?
Yeah, we've got Jon Stewart just announced that he'll be leaving The Daily Show. And also we had a retirement several months ago from Stephen Colbert. So there are some openings. And we're just saying, hey, guys, don't brush over the little people so fast. Give us a call.
And, you know, she's pretty comedic, so if you want to put her in Colbert's spot, I think it's a good go. All right, I think that's about it. That wraps up this week's edition of Week in Review. You can watch this episode and archived episodes online anytime on Facebook, YouTube, or Google Plus by searching Arundel TV. Please tune in again next week for more highlights and news from around the county. We'll see you next time.
Happy Valentine's
Happy
Day!
Valentine's
We love
Day.
our viewers.